Hello and welcome to this edition with the ICT Media Masters. I call them masters because they've been there for over 2 decades. One of them, 3 decades. Masters of the bit with information and detailed balance analysis. In this conversation, we will be setting agenda for the regulators, ministries and federal government to creating a digital environment, plus the proposed tax regime. Good or not, the debate will come on. I have the icons here with me. Jerome, you're welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure.
Great. We have heard the issues and we go straight to the business. And then what I have first on my list, I think we can kick off with is this administration on the right track for ICT development? If the agenda is how to make Nigeria play well in a digital environment. I'll start with you. Bye.
Well, I would say nothing has really changed from the previous administration. The focus has always been on the personalities that heads the Ministry of Communication. And I haven't seen anything fundamentally different apart from the local visits and the attention that is paid to international events. I've not seen any clear-cut direction, that separates us from what it used to be in the past and what direction we want to go moving forward.
Okay, in Hagen Visual, you may call it. Recently, he had the ministerial, retreat in Ibadan, where he unveiled what he called his roadmap for the industry. Was that enough, or is that what Bayo is talking about?
I read from the papers, and as Bayo has rightly stated, I have not seen anything that is drastically different in terms of policy direction from what has existed. But what I can say is that I'm beginning to sense that there's a likelihood, because of the kind of persons that have come into the various MDAs, the one at NCC, the one who is now acting at NIDA, there's a likelihood that they may want to take the scale up a little bit. So we expect that will be more proactive. We expect that they will be more committed to taking us from the level of the voice regime to actually putting us on the desire for a data regime.
Are you in that frequency?
I'd rather take a rather different perspective. For me, with the new government and the new minister in place, I've seen some level of energy. I was in Ibadan retreat. What I saw in Ibadan is genuineness of commitment. I saw energy, and I saw the stakeholder trying to hold the ante, if I may use that word.
Yes.
And from that perspective, I'm beginning to witness some changes, if you may call it a change. The way I look at stuff is that you can't discuss communication ministry without discussing the MDAs,
Yes.
The affiliate MDAs.
Yes.
I take the case of NIPOST, for instance. NIPOST has moved under very few months from a state of hopelessness to the point that NITEL has become a money-spinning MDA overnight because of this postal stamp duty phenomenon. Today now, NIPOST generates 7% of the money they collect for federal government. It's a lot of money.
We are seeing a smart Nigeria idea coming from the minister. Okay? And we don't seem to have a clear-cut agenda as to how they will implement on a short term, mid-term, and a long term. So, as the ministry, put aside that Omobola Johnson did, or it is something that is near the same that we can say we are moving forward, or we're starting all over again? Bayo?
Yeah, I would say that first, Omobola Johnson must be commended for the roles she played in setting a clear-cut agenda for the industry. Perhaps because she was the very first technocrat to occupy that seat, and she had a clear vision on the direction the industry should move. When you look at the broadband plan, which was initiated and was put on course to drive Nigeria's digital movement, as how we call it, towards smart, ecosystem. At some point, the disconnect was because of the sentiments within the so-called MDAs, as you mentioned. There were varied interests that were being played up at some point, and before you knew it, everything collapsed, and there was lull.
The MDAs,
Yes.
we have not seen any real action coming from them. Is it as a result of what is also coming from the ministry is not giving the policy direction? Because the MDAs are meant to implement the policy, as the ministry brings out the policy to oversee what the MDAs are doing.
I don't see a synergy, a connection between what the ministry is doing and what the MDAs are doing, and also what the industry stakeholders are doing. Someone was talking about the previous minister, the smart city that you talked about, the broadband awareness campaign, the broadband strategy and plan that was unveiled, the various licenses that were. There was a time where the industry was bubbling, and there was high expectation, and all of a sudden there was a drop in terms of the roadmap, the broadband roadmap, through intrigue, as it were.
But let us be clear, who are the stakeholders? Shola?
Yeah, I think we have to be very careful when we talk about broadband. For me, the broadband initiative.
But the question is, who are the stakeholders?
I will get to that point. So the issue of broadband is very germane.
Yeah.
That's what we drive everything at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Without broadband, you can't be talking about here in Nigeria or digital Nigeria.
Yeah.
But from my own point of view is that NCC has not done what it's supposed to do. NCC is supposed to be the driver of the broadband, not the ministry. From day one, I've said it, that this journey is likely to fail. It will not deliver on its mandate, because NCC is not an appendage of the ministry. The ministry cannot supervise the NCC, as it were. The law does not place NCC under the ministry. If you look at the paper today, we're supposed to have about 30% broadband deployment in Nigeria too. We don't have that.
Gentlemen, I thank you very much for your time, and then I hope that next week we'll be here again so that we can really dissect this issue so that our viewers can understand it more.